This is the Tech Phantom, and welcome to episode 5 of this walkthrough. We are using a sorcerer build to try to get through the game as safely and with as little risk as possible. And in the last episode, we killed the Capra Demon, so we have picked up immediately after that. On every video, we are going to try to have a goal, a strategic objective. And for this video, it's going to be to maximize the Estus flasks. You can actually get Estus flasks all the way up to 20. Right now we're at 10, so we are going to, in this video, we're going to maximize our Estus flasks. We're also going to obtain some equipment that is going to come in pretty handy. Specifically, we're going to get a shield that will be, for the most part, our go-to shield. And we are also going to start building on other attributes for our build. Our character is a very strong sorcerer, but has very little vitality and very little endurance. And as you get further into the game without vitality, the possibility of getting one-shotted increases. So we want to minimize that, and because we have all the offensive power that we could possibly need, since our intelligence is already at 50, and that's going to be the primary way to make to do damage, we are going to start working on the vitality in this video. Alright, so I am making my way back to Firelink Shrine, and you see that it's very easy using the spider shield and using the lightning spear to just poke at the hollows. And I see Griggs and also Big Head Logan. And if you remember from a previous video, we also freed Laurentius of the Great Swamp, so he is also waiting for us in Firelink Shrine. But let's just talk to Griggs, and he is going to sell a very important, a very useful spell called Full Control. And this spell, when you cast it upon yourself, will negate any damage that you take from falls. Now, if you fall from a distance that would kill you, you will still die. But if you fall from a distance where you won't die, you only take damage, the Full Control spell will negate the damage. So it's kind of a functional and very useful spell, so we want to make sure that we purchase it. Now, the other thing that we noticed in Grig's inventory is that he had a couple of rings that were pretty expensive. They were 20,000 souls apiece. And we're going to come back for those because they have some pretty strong capabilities as far as affecting sorcerers. Alright, we are talking with Petrus, the most unlikable character NPC in the game as far as I'm concerned. And he's got his posse of clerics around him. We're going to come back and have some words with Petrus. This is going to be an intelligence build. Petrus is a miracle merchant, one of the two miracle merchants or divine merchants. And we have no use for miracles or divinity at all. So we're going to come back and we are going to have words with him. Alright, so if you've noticed, the first 5 minutes of this video have been sped up. And that's because I had a couple of fails like this one here where I couldn't make my way up to the crow's nest. So what we are trying to do here is go up to the crow's nest and use the crow, trick the crow into transporting us back to the beginning area, to the area where we began the game, the Northern Undead Asylum. And in order to do that, you need to come through here, you need to make this roll, which I didn't do, and you need to go all the way up on those columns and make it all the way up to the crow's nest. And we picked up a key earlier on, the rusted iron, a key that will open up a cell in Northern Undead Asylum. So you want to make sure you get that key before heading back to the Northern Undead Asylum. Alright, so this is going to be try number 3. And we roll forward and we make it onto this beam. And we go up the staircase very gingerly, making sure that we don't fall. And there's the crow's nest. And we are going to crouch. And the crow is going to think that Um, when we roll ourselves up into a ball, we look like an egg. And after a little bit of time, we trigger the cutscene, and a giant crow will pick us up and will transport us back up to Firelink Shrine. If for those new players out there, there's a lot of lore and a lot of secret story to this game. The game tells the story via dialogue and item description. So if you're interested on the lore, I have an entire walkthrough devoted just to the lore. So check out my channel if you're interested in the lore. This again, this walkthrough is specifically, it's more action oriented. It's not going to focus on the lore at all. It's specifically for a sorcery build to get through the game in as easily a manner as possible. Alright, so there are some torch bearing hollows here, and at the beginning of the game the enemies in this area were very easy. When you come back, they get a big bump to their vitality and to their damage output. And especially those torch hollows will rush at you with their torches out, and they can do quite a bit of damage. Now, one thing to be careful here in this courtyard, don't step in the center of the courtyard. The floor will give way and you will trigger a boss fight. And I guess I should say that this is a walkthrough, so there's going to be many spoilers here. So we're not ready to take on that boss, and that is not the reason we came to this area. We'll come back for that boss later. So make sure that you, when you walk through the courtyard, take the path to the side, and you won't fall through. You won't break the floor. Alright, so we had some souls, and we used those to increase our vitality. And we come back to the area of the game where Oscar gave us our Estus flasks and a key at the very beginning of the game, and we notice that he is now a hollow. He is attacking us, but he is very easy pickings for homing soul mass, especially because he has fat roll, and he is going to give us the crest shield. So this is one of the reasons for coming to this area, to get the crest shield. The crest shield is one of the best shields in the game. It can be upgraded with Twinkling Titanite, and it has 80% magic defense. And when it's upgraded to +5, its stability is going to be at 66, which is going to pretty much allow us to get through the entire game, at least the first time you run through the game, NG, or new game. Alright, and we come back to this area, and if you remember at the very beginning of the game when you tried going to this area, if you did, this door was locked. But now we have the key that we got from that body on top of that roof in Firelink Shrine, and we're able to progress forward, and we pick up the rusted iron ring. So this is the second reason for coming to this area. The rusted iron ring is going to allow you to walk normally in swamps, in water, and there are three locations in the game, major locations in the game, where the rusted iron ring comes in very handy. One is the swamp in Blighttown. Another one is the floor of Sen's Fortress, which we will get to in a future video. And the third area is the lake, or the lagoon, where we fight a Hydra in Darkroot Basin. When you put the and there's also a couple other areas in Undead, in the depths, that can benefit from the rusted iron ring. But the rusted iron ring will negate the movement penalty. Your character will not move slower when you have this ring equipped, and you will be able to move normally, and that's going to be a very helpful thing, especially because we're going to be doing some farming and some running across the map in Blighttown. Alright, so we headed back to the nest, and we did our little trick of rolling up into a ball, and we are transported back to Firelink Shrine by the giant crow. Now be careful here, try not to fall down. If you fall in the wrong spot, you will die. Alright, so we are back in Firelink Shrine, and now that we've outfitted ourselves, we can have a conversation with Laurentius of the Great Swamp. And be careful of the commentary, guys, of his dialogue. Make sure that you select the correct answer. So the correct answer here, when he says, "Do you find the magics unsavory?" is to say no. If you pick the wrong choice, he will give you some other options for dialogue. You just have to make sure that you select the correct response. And he is going to grant us a pyromancy glove. We are a sorcery build. We are going to be doing spells most of the time, but there is going to be one pyromancy that is going to be absolutely essential to our build, and that is why we freed Laurentius, and that is why we talked to him and we obtain the pyromancy glove, because it will allow us to cast a pyromancy. The pyromancy glove acts exactly like a catalyst. A catalyst is used to cast spells. A pyromancy glove is used to cast pyromancies. Alright, so we are heading down to the catacombs. And you want to be careful of these skeletons here. And we're going to go into this area, and we are going to take out the necromancer. Now, the thing that makes the catacombs a little bit difficult early on is that the undead skeletons will continue to respawn even after you kill them, unless you kill the necromancer that is in the vicinity. And there are a total of, I believe, 5 necromancers. So there are 2 ways to kill the skeletons for good, so that they don't respawn over and over again. One is to kill the necromancer that controls them, and the second is to use a divine weapon. Now we don't have a divine weapon, and even if we did, our faith is very, very low, so a divine weapon that scales with faith would not do a lot of damage. So we are not going to bother with the skeletons. We're not going to try to hunt all of the necromancers. This is easy mode, so what we are going to do instead is we are going to take a shortcut down to the boss of this area. And it's possible to jump all the way down the bottom to the boss fog door and avoid, for the most part, all of the confrontations with the skeletons. At the bottom of the level, there are some very, very dangerous skeletons that ride bone wheels. And they get on these wheels, they almost use them like bikes, and the wheels have spikes, and if they touch you, they could stun you, and they do a ton of damage, especially if they dead angle you, especially if they hit you from the sides or from the back where you are not shielded. So the strategy that we're going to use for the next boss, to get to the next boss area, is to drop all the way down to the bottom floor of this level. We are going to use cast control on ourselves to negate the damage from the falls, and we are going to use the wolf ring just in case we get hit by either a normal skeleton or the bone shield skeletons. And finally, we're going to use the Darkwood grain ring to have the ability to quickly dodge and quickly flip past the skeletons. Alright, so that was the first drop, and you notice that I cast full control prior to initiating the drops. One thing that might be a little bit safer to do is to cast full control in the cave where the bonfire was. I waited till I was right almost on top of the skeletons. And we're continue to drop, and there you see the bone wield, the bone shield skeletons, and there's many of them. And we jumped over him, and we just started running down as fast as we could. And you saw that he was after me, and if he would have hit me prior to the fog there, I would have been in trouble. I'm going to cast full control again because there's going to be a little bit of a drop going into the boss area. And we're going to take on the Pinwheel boss. Now, this is not a very difficult boss. He makes copies of himself. So the strategy we're going to have is to cast Homing Soul Mass, get close to himself or one of his copies if we can't tell who the original Pinwheel is, and we're just going to let loose with Homing Soul Mass and with our Lightning Spear. He does have some magical attacks, and we don't have a lot of vitality, so we're in a little bit of danger, but we're going to minimize that by equipping the Crest Shield that we got in the Northern Undead Asylum. The Crest Shield has, like I said, high magic defense. So I'm using my strategy of casting Homing Soul Mass and getting close to the Pinwheel boss or one of his copies and just taking him out. And you saw that I hit the real boss and he's almost dead with Homing Soul Mass, so one more hit ought to do it. And that's it, guys. That is the Pinwheel boss. So you get the Rite of Kindling as well as some humanity and a Homeward Bone. The Rite of Kindling is the reason we came down here, and that was our main strategic objective for this video. The Rite of Kindling will allow you to kindle bonfires so that they can refill your Estus flask up to 20. And in an easy mode walkthrough, it's very important that we have as much ability to heal as possible. So that's why we decided to max out our Estus flasks in this video. Now, I got myself a little bit turned around here, but if you come up to the top of the arena, I guess, and you continue forward through this little walkway or cave, at the end you will see a soul item, and we just wanted to get that soul item before we used a Homeward Bone back to the bonfire. Alright, so now that we've gotten souls from Pinwheel and the Rite of Kindling, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to level up our vitality. And also, it's time to head back out of the catacombs. And that is, in some cases, not the easiest thing to do. And that's because the way out is guarded by several skeletons. And if you're not careful, it's possible that the skeletons could surround you, and they can hit you multiple times, they can stun you, and they can do quite a bit of damage. And again, we need to be a little bit careful because we have good equipment, but we don't have a lot of vitality or a lot of endurance. So what I'm going to do, and I think you've seen this in this video, I'm going to very safely and very deliberately walk out. I'm not going to try to run through these enemies. I'm simply going to cast Homing Soul Mass, get close to an enemy, hold up my shield, and let Homing Soul Mass do the damage. And you're seeing again that I didn't even have to lock on. I just had to get close enough to one of the skeletons, and the spell fire on its own when I was in range. I guess a little advice to the new players: never try to run through Dark Souls unless you have you know the area very, very well. If you try to run through an area, more often than not, bad things are going to happen. So I know that in some cases, if you happen to die and if you lose some souls, there's a desire to run back there as quickly as possible and grab your souls to make sure that you don't lose them. Well, actually, guys, that is the surest way to lose your souls, is to try to run past all enemies. And that's because they will chase you and they can surround you and they can kill you. So my recommendation is, if you die and if you want to recover your souls, just relax. You know, don't put extra pressure on yourself, and be very deliberate about walking back to your souls. Take on the enemies one at a time, and you should be fine. You should be able to get your souls back. All right, so we are back in Firelink Shrine, and we notice that Petrus does not have his posse with him, and we also notice that one of these skeletons has chased us. So let's take care of the skeleton. Now let's go have some words with Petrus.
Me, where could you?
And again, if you want to understand why I'm killing Petrus here, I recommend that you check out my my lore series. So we are going to use our trusty homing soul mass, and again, homing soul mass plus one poke from the lightning spear that we used to aggro him. That's all it took for Petrus. Okay, now another thing that we did in a previous video is we kind of avoided the enemies in the second floor of the old church, and we never explored that area. So we have a little bit more vitality and we are better equipped. So this time we are going to explore the second floor of the old church in Undead Parish. And we're going to take advantage of the shield and spear combo. And if there's there's a channeler there, and if you stand right in the spot or a little bit forward and you make noise, or you let him see you through one of the window holes, he will aggro and he will chase after you. You just have to be a little bit patient. So this is the strategy that I like to use, as opposed to aggroing him, aggroing the challenger plus all of the hollows that are behind him. I choose to just aggro the channeler, and that makes it a little bit easier to take on these hollows. Now the hollows do have an aura around them, and that signifies that they have been buffed by the dance of the channeler. The channeler has a trident, and the trident has a special two-handed strong attack. When you do a two-handed strong attack with the channeler's trident, you do a dance, same dance that he did, and that will buff the your companion. So this is a great item to have in co-op, especially if you're on intelligence build, because the trident does scale with intelligence. But again, we're not going to be summoning, we're not going to be using any co-op, so we are not going to try to get the channeler's trident. It's somewhat of a relatively rare drop. There is going to be an area much further in the game that you can use to farm channelers if you're really interested in the trident, and I will try to remember to point that out. Okay, so we come back to this area up here. We went through a boulder night, and we find some humanity, and humanity is our friend. We like to have humanity on us as much as possible. Humanity serves two purposes in Dark Souls. Actually multiple purposes, but the amount of humanity affects your the drop rate from enemies, and so you can have humanity up to 10, and it will increase your drop rate. And each humanity that you pop lessens, it increases the drop rate by a little bit less. So if you're trying to farm, it is most important that you have at least one humanity, but you can actually stock on humanity up to 10. But humanity also increases your defenses a little bit and increases curse resistance a little bit. So having humanity on yourself is always a good thing. And of course, humanity can also be used to kindle bonfires. So now that we have the right of kindling from Pinwheel, we are able to take this bonfire and kindle it to its maximum. And if you look at my stock of Estus flasks, we are now up to 20. Okay, so we also obtained the large ember in the previous video, and you can give different embers to different blacksmiths to allow them to increase your weapons, upgrade your weapons. Andre will accept the large ember. Actually, he really wants the large ember, so we're going to give him the large ember. And we are going to go through here. We're going to try to get some souls. We are going to take on this Titanite demon, a prowling demon. And he should be very easy to take out. I have plenty of damage output, but as you can tell, he has a huge amount of range. And he took me out with 2 hits. He stunned me with the first, in spite of the fact that my poise was relatively high. But no worries. Again, Dark Souls is a game where you will die many times. So this is the first death of this walkthrough, but it's not going to be the first one. It's not going to be the only one. It's only the first. But we are going to try to minimize the number of times that we died. And actually, that death could have been avoided very easily. I was a little bit careless. I thought I was outside the range of the swings with his halberd, with his pole, Titanite pole. This time I'm going to stay further back. I'm also going to use the stairs so that if he does swing at me, the swings are going to go over my head because I'm going to be in the lower level. And I'm just going to use Heavy Soul Arrow and dodge his lightning attacks and just fire. And this is the method that I was trying to use last time. I was just a little bit too close. And he drops Demon Titanite and gives us 2,000 souls. Alright. So we are going to head back to Firelink Shrine because we want to head to the swamp, to Blighttown. So the way to go there is through Firelink Shrine. Now, one thing that I didn't mention earlier, guys, is on previous video, is that if you fight Quelaag and then if you fight the gargoyles, an NPC will spawn after the gargoyle fight. And if you've already beaten Quelaag, this NPC will murder the Firekeeper in Firelink Shrine. So our bonfire in Firelink Shrine is gone. And if you're a new player, this could be a little bit of an issue because this might be your home base. This might be your favorite bonfire. So I allowed the Firekeeper to be murdered just in case this happened to some of you guys and you ended up without a bonfire at Firelink Shrine. So we're going to head back to Firelink Shrine and we're going to go next to the bonfire and you're going to see that the bonfire is out. But not a big deal. We are going to choose the bonfire in Undead Parish as our main bonfire, and that's why we kindle it to 20 Estus flasks. So there is an NPC, there is a character next to the bonfire. This is the Crestfallen warrior, and we're gonna have words with him because he did not protect the bonfire keeper. So here's the outfit for Anastasia, who is the keeper, and we also receive a special item, a Dark Eye Orb, that will allow us to hunt down and take revenge on the murderer. And we will do that later in the game. Alright, and I don't like the Crestfallen Merchant. Anastasia was attacked and he didn't do anything, so we are going to take him out. And again, it's very, very easy to take him out with Homing Soul Mass at this point. Okay, so one thing that you are going to see me do from time to time, guys, is to switch equipment, switch rings. It's not necessary to do this, but I am going to do it if I think that it might make a little bit of a tricky area easier to progress through or trespass. So in a little bit here, we are going to put on the Darkwood Grain Ring. And this is the game that gives us the ninja flip, makes dodging easier and makes us much more difficult to hit. So the reason I'm putting on the Darkwood Grain Ring is because on our way to Blighttown, we have to dodge 3 infested barbarians with their poisoned clubs. And they can actually drop those large clubs. It's a great weapon for a strength build. With the Darkwood Grain Ring equipped, getting through the infested barbarians is a breeze. You just flip past them, and they're gonna have absolutely no shot at getting you. So this is if for whatever reason, if you find yourself getting hit by the infested barbarians, or if you can't get the timing down to dodge them, put on the Darkwood Grain Ring and you should have no problems. Alright, now we're going to go to the bottom of the swamp, and this is one of the areas that I mentioned earlier where you will have a penalty on your movement. So we are going to equip the Rusted Iron Ring, which will negate that penalty and will allow us to move quickly through the swamp. And we want to have the ability to move quickly through the swamp because it's a fairly large area and we're going to be running through, making a relatively long run through the swamp, and we want to do that as quickly as possible. So I'm on excuse me, I'm on solid ground here. But as soon as I put foot on the swamp, I slow down, and the swamp is also poisonous, so I'm also going to get poisoned. Now, if you get poisoned, guys, don't sweat it. Poison is not that big of a deal. Toxicity is a bigger deal, but poison is not that big of a deal. It's an easy thing to manage, and as a matter of fact, when I get poisoned, unless I'm in a situation where my life is very, very low, or it's strategically important for me to not be poisoned, I will cure it. But other than that, I just ignore poison and I just progress to the next bonfire, use Estus flasks as needed. And get rid of to get me to the bonfire. Alright, so what I'm doing here is I'm doing a little bit of farming these crag spiders so that I can level up again. So I'm going to level up, and we've gotten our vitality all the way up to 15 and used up as much of our stock of souls as we could. And now we're going to make a dash across the map. And this is where the Rusted Iron Ring will come in handy. And if you wanted to, you have the remedy spell. You can also equip the remedy spell. But like I said, I really don't care about being poisoned. It's not that big of a deal. Don't sweat it if you do get poisoned. So I'm just going to run past all of these enemies. And there is a tree root, a large tree root that looks like a ramp, and I'm heading towards that. And we are going to go into a sort of a hidden area. And this hollow has a wooden shield that's not very good. And I broke through an illusory wall and I found humanity. I break through another illusory wall and I continue through this area, which is called the Great Hollow. And I'm going to find a bonfire fairly quickly here. And that is going to be it for this video, guys. We will pick it up from this spot in the next video. This is the Tech Phantom signing off.